Okay, today we are diving into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty unsettling personality type. It's one that takes a human trait we all value, empathy, and just flips it completely on its head.
You know, we're always taught to be a little wary of people who seem cold or unfeeling, right? But what if the real danger isn't from a lack of emotion? What if it's from someone who feels everything and knows exactly how to use it as a weapon? This quote just hits the nail on the head.
And that really leads us to the big question we're tackling here. What kind of person do you get when you mix a deep, genuine understanding of human emotion with a powerful desire for control? Well, the answer is someone who is incredibly complex and, as you'll see, very difficult to spot.
So let's get into our first section. We're going to challenge that idea that empathy is always this pure, positive force, and instead, take a look at its potential dark side.
Here's the core idea you've got to get your head around. The most effective manipulators, they aren't the cold, calculating villains you see in the movies. No, they are often incredibly warm, they're understanding, they're charismatic. They use their emotional intelligence not to connect, but to disarm you, to make you feel totally seen and safe, all while they're quietly setting up their influence.
So what do we actually call this kind of person? Well, there's a name for it. Let's get to the official definition.
And there it is, the Dark Empath. You have to notice the two key ingredients here. First, high emotional empathy. They really do feel and understand what you're going through. But, and this is the crucial part, it's fused with dark traits like narcissism. So that empathy, it becomes more like a radar system, used to find your vulnerabilities so they can be exploited for their own gain.
Now, what is truly terrifying is what this slide shows us. It's why dark empaths are so uniquely dangerous. See, a psychopath, they're often easier to spot, right? Their coldness can be a real red flag. But a dark empath? They use warmth and connection as their camouflage. They pull you in, which makes them incredibly difficult to see for who they are, until it's way too late. This ability they have to just blend in, well, that's what we're going to dig into next. How exactly do they operate? What does this art of camouflage actually look like in the real world? They have a really specific set of traits that make them so good at what they do. Their compassion is totally selective. It only gets switched on when it serves them. They've got this incredible emotional memory, not because they're sentimental, but so they can bring up your insecurities later as leverage. They're morally flexible, so they can justify pretty much any action, and they are constantly pushing your boundaries, all while staying perfectly calm and collected. And this slide just lays out their 4-step playbook for control perfectly. First, they read you like a book. Second, they use that info to become the most understanding person you've ever met, and they gain your total trust. Third, they make you dependent on them, so you feel like you need their advice and validation. And finally, once they're in, they just subtly start to take the wheel, and your own sense of self starts to fade. But why does this work so well? I mean, why are we so vulnerable to this kind of person? Let's take a look at our own psychology to figure that out. The answer is really as simple as it is profound. Dark empaths are masters at tapping into our most basic human needs. I mean, who doesn't want to be truly seen, to be understood, to feel safe? They offer that feeling freely, and in return, we give them our trust. And that trust, well, it gives them access. And that access very quickly turns into influence. I know this all might sound a little bleak, but it's not a hopeless situation. Far from it. This last section is all about your best defense. And believe me, it's simpler and way more powerful than you might think. So the key is learning to tell the difference between healthy empathy and dark empathy. In this slide, this is your field guide. Healthy empathy is all about connection. It feels supportive. It wants you to be independent. Dark empathy, on the other hand, is all about control. It feels possessive, and it works to make you dependent on them. It's all about the intent behind that feeling of being understood. So look, the big takeaway here is not to become paranoid of every empathetic person you meet. That's not it at all. The crucial thing is to pay attention to patterns. How does a person make you feel over time? Do you feel more empowered, more independent, or do you feel more reliant on them, more uncertain of yourself? Your long-term emotional state, that's the most reliable data you have. And that leads us to this final, really powerful idea. A dark empath, they might be able to manipulate your feelings, your choices, your relationships, but they absolutely cannot manipulate your awareness once you have it. That is the one thing that is entirely yours. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. Now that you know what to look for, that critical difference between connection and control, how can you apply that awareness in your own life
in your own relationships. Something to really think about.